This podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Legend of the Bones. Following in the footsteps of giants, Legend of the Bones is a chimera. A mix of old-school tabletop RPG and dark fantasy storytelling. As its name might suggest, in Legend of the Bones the dice rule. There'll be no rerolls, no fudging the dice, no metacurrency. The roll of the bones will determine the character's destiny, and no one will be spared their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone. Last time on Legend of the Bones. In the aftermath of the storm and their encounter with the Kraken, Knut and the crew of the Uvadraka continued on their journey to Llanrhys in the search for his uncle and Beric's father, Einar. With the loss of several crew, Knut had a crisis of doubt and determined to test the loyalty of his men. Bringing the crew together, he offered that if any wished to be released from their oaths, that he would grant it without enmity. When none said a word, Raven spoke for the crew, restating their allegiance to their lord. The next day, the Uvadraka made landfall, reaching the rugged coastline of Llanrhys, and as they steered southward, another Skarne ship rounded a promontory ahead. In a flashback, we heard about the first time Knut had come to Llanrhys, a raiding mission with his father and Einar, which resulted in a battle in which the Skarne defeated a local warlord and his elite warriors, the Prytany, woad-painted men who fought naked. Back in the present, Knut identified the other vessel as the Vindnadra, a ship belonging to Einar, and upon meeting, a warm reunion was passed between the two men. Einar expressed surprise at Knut's presence in Llanrhys, and shock when Knut had revealed that he had come seeking Einar, with news that his uncle had a son. But now, we shall go back 3 days and return to the main companions in the aftermath of their battle with the Hellworm Nithagir, where Lena has been left grievously wounded and close to death, and the rift remains open. Chapter 69, Part 1, Day 62, Evening. Party status: Beric, 55 out of 61 hit points. Lena, 1 out of 39 hit points. Valen, 17 out of 22 hit points. Talion, 14 out of 27 hit points. Edith, 6 out of 14 hit points. Demalza, 4 out of 11 hit points. Spells available: Valen has memorized Charm Animal, Push, Soothe, Revive, Clairvoyance, and Dragon's Breath. Talion has memorized Poetic Prose, Pitch, Imbue, and Lullaby. Edith has memorized Flame, Sleep, and Knock. Lena can pray for 2 first-level miracles, 2 second-level miracles, 1 third-level miracle, 2 fourth-level miracles, and 1 fifth-level miracle. Valen rushed to the still and broken form of Lena. Her body lay twisted amid a dark, spreading pool of blood that glistened in the dim light. Fearing the worst, he dropped to his knees beside her, heart in his throat. With trembling fingers, slick with her blood, he gently brushed aside the tangled, dirt-streaked strands of matted hair that clung to her ashen face. He exhaled with sudden, shuddering relief, for her eyes, those deep, moss-green eyes that had so often looked upon him with love, looked back at him now with the fragile spark of life. But the relief was short-lived. It was plain that Lena clung to existence by the barest thread. Her spine bent in a cruel angle, her chest and abdomen crushed beneath the hellworm's monstrous jaws. Shattered ribs jutted through torn flesh, glistening white against the dark ruin of her body. And every laboured breath came wet and shallow. Her wounds were far beyond his skill. She needed a miracle, else death would take her in its cold embrace. Too many times he had feared this end. The thought had haunted his dreams, gnawed at his waking hours. And now, here it was before him, terrible and real.
"Lena,"
he croaked, his voice breaking beneath the weight of his grief.
"Stay with me."
He implored, his vision blurring as tears welled and spilled freely.
I'm nothing without you."
It was not selfishness that drew those words from him, but despair, raw and consuming. He would have traded his life for hers without hesitation.
Take me instead,"
he pleaded, voice cracking as it rose, begging any god who might be listening.
"Please."
His head fell forward in defeat, gaze meeting hers. And in that moment, Lena's eyes were not filled with fear or agony, but with something gentler. Comfort, love, the faintest flicker of a smile, meant only for him. She tried to speak, but the effort made her cough, crimson flecks splattering across her lips. She grimaced, a faint whimper escaping as pain racked her shattered body. Vaylin clenched his fists until his nails bit into his palm, teeth digging into his lip to stifle a sob. He was powerless, utterly powerless. The thought of her dying here, in this dreadful place, tore at him like claws. Yet to move her would only bring more pain. Then, hope. Lena's lips began to move, almost imperceptibly, forming silent words of prayer. Her golden aura shimmered and stirred, then flared, brilliant and blinding, washing over her in rippling waves. Bones cracked and realigned. Fracture lines sealed themselves as torn muscle, sinew and skin knit anew. Her pallor warmed with returning life, and the ruin that had been her body was slowly, wondrously made whole once more, by faith and by the grace of the divine. Lena slowly sat, a groan escaping her lips. The Nine had saved her from death, but her body was still marred by angry black bruises. Vaylin took her in his arms, holding her close in desperate relief.
"My love."
Lena gently prized him away, their eyes meeting. She offered him a small smile, taking his hands and squeezing them. "We shall have time soon enough, my love. But now, you have a task to attend to." Before the start of this episode, I rolled for Lena to pray twice for the miracle of cure serious wounds. The result being that the cleric was healed for a total of 18 hit points, bringing her back from the edge of death, though she remains wounded. Lena has certainly had it tough of late. If she had not leveled up just before the battle with Nithagir, then she would have been killed. For now though, the dice have decided it is not her time, and she will live to see another day. But back to the matter at hand, because Vaylin and Demelza need to complete the ritual to close the rift, and in the process, destroy the Eye of Krevik. Now, the pair's plan is for Vaylin to read the incantation on the scroll, and at the end, for Demelza to take her own life. At the moment of her death, Vaylin will cast the spell Push, throwing the old mage's body, along with the Eye of Krevik, into the rift. Their hope is that Demelza's soul will escape to the other world, just as her body is consumed. But here is the rub. In cheating Hel of Demelza's soul, there is a risk that the ritual may fail. I am going to ask the Oracle, but I will apply a +1 to the roll, making a yes more likely. The question is, will the ritual fail if Demelza's soul escapes? A modified 2. That's a straight no. Well, that is good news, but I still need to establish whether Valen can successfully invoke the ritual using the scroll, and immediately after cast the spell Push. Each will require a successful intelligence test. Time for the first roll to invoke the ritual. Valen will need a 17 or less to succeed. A 13. Now for his casting roll for Push. Given the complexity of casting so quickly after invoking the scroll, I'm going to apply a -2, meaning that Valen will need to roll a 15 or less. Okay then. Chapter 69, Part 2, Day 62, Evening. Party status. The party status is unchanged, except that Lena has been restored to 19 out of 39 hit points, and can no longer pray for any 4th level miracles.
Valen.
Demelza's voice, calm yet commanding, broke the stillness, drawing the companions' attention. The old mage stood once more before the rift, her small frame starkly silhouetted against the seething void of flickering hellfire.
It is time,
she announced with quiet finality, her jaw set in grim, unshakable resolve. In one hand, Demelza gripped her enchanted dagger, Tagru, a shard of white that gleamed defiantly against the crimson void, while in the other she held the Eye of Krevik, its amulet glinting in the infernal light. The molten glow that edged the tear fled brightly in rippling waves, responding perhaps to the Hellstone's proximity. The air shimmered with heat, thrumming with dark, infernal energy. Nithagir's corpse, meanwhile, had entirely vanished. Only a smear of ash remained upon the flagstones, a faint smudge where the Hellworm's great body had fallen. Valen stepped forward, drawing the ritual scroll from his pack before discarding the rest of his gear aside. Behind him, Lena comforted Edith, the young woman's shoulders shaking as she sobbed softly into the cleric's breast. The ancient parchment crackled like dry leaves as Valen unfurled it. Its runes glowed in the dim light, expectant, as though aware their long-slumbering purpose was about to be fulfilled. He looked up, meeting Demelza's eyes. The old mage gazed back, her expression carved from pure resolve, solid as any stone. Valen's heart thumped in his chest. Doubt creeped into his thoughts. There was no way the Wardens could have tested the scroll. They had long relinquished the Hellstones, given them over to the keeping of others. If the ritual were to fail, then Demelza would die in vain. She must have sensed his hesitation. Her eyes softened, the skin around them creasing, as the corners of her mouth rose in a wry smile. Gracious, reassuring, and unbearably final. Then she nodded once. He forced the uncertainty aside. There was no turning back, no other hope. They had to try. He exhaled slowly, clearing his mind, and then read the runes aloud, his voice low and resonant, echoing about the chamber.
A wound that festers shall be cleansed. A tear in nature shall be mended. Sewn and stitched by precious life, bound by willing sacrifice.
As Valen spoke, the rift began to warp and flex, as if under enormous pressure, while the air around it fizzed and crackled. Still, the mage read on, the runes now burning bright upon the parchment, casting dark shadows across his features.
Darkest chasm, closed now be. The stone of hell be turned to thee. Take thy sickness back as bane. Break the links of endless chain. Now sealed by blood and bound by will, gate of fire, at last be still. Let silence fall where chaos reigned, and pure be now what once was stained.
As the final word was spoken, the runes flared brighter still, consuming the scroll, immolating it in arcane fire. The parchment curled and blackened, falling to ash between Valen's fingers. He released it, lifting his gaze to Demelza. She raised Tagru with steady hands, resting its cold, gleaming tip against her breast, never once breaking eye contact with him.
No!
Edith cried out in despair, but it was to no avail. Demelza drove the dagger into her own heart. The breath punched from her body in a sharp gasp. Her eyes widened, blood spilling from the wound, a dark stain blossoming on her tunic. The old woman's eyes rolled back in their sockets. Her mouth opened, but no sound escaped. Then her knees buckled, her frail form toppling forward, the eye of Krevik beginning to slip from her grasp.
Be there he for the Betheri.
An unseen force surged from Valen's outstretched hand. It slammed into Demelza's limp body as she fell, catching her and the Hellstone, and hurling them together into the waiting void. A blinding flash of white light erupted from the rift, shaking the chamber like an earthquake. The tear contorted and writhed violently as it resisted the pull. Then it collapsed inward, folding upon itself and dragging air, dust, and loose stones with it. Then it was gone. So, the companions have successfully closed the rift, and in the process, destroyed the Eye of Krevik. This will be a blow to Reynard of Harburg's plans. Long has he sought all five, but while the full collective power of the Hellstones will no longer be a possibility, he does possess three, and that could still prove decisive. It is also worth noting that Penmelkin is not the only place where a rift exists, though whether the companions encounter another during this tale will remain to be seen. More immediately, I need to determine if the violent closing of the rift causes a collapse in the chamber, or perhaps even the entire lower vault. I'm going to ask the Oracle, does the immediate chamber collapse? A 1. That's a definitive no and. Okay, so no mad dash to escape. But with the rift now sealed, is there any residue taint? Have all traces of corruption been destroyed? A 4. That's a yes but. I wonder what that but could mean. Time to roll on the mythic event meaning chart. Rolling percentile dice for the action. 56. Usurp. Now for the subject. 86. Hope. Usurp hope. Okay, that gives me an idea. But before we get back to the narrative, I'm going to roll for Lena to heal Edith by praying for the miracle of Cure Light Wounds. The cleric needs to roll a 16 or less for her prayer to be answered. And that's 1! That is another great blessing. The 9 really are favouring our cleric. Let's roll on my great blessing table to see what boon the gods grant her. A 2. Okay, with that result, the cleric's soul is flooded with divine inspiration, and the gods will respond to a prayer for an additional miracle of the same level that day. Well, with all the party injured, that will be very useful. Okay, so Edith is healed for 6 hit points. Well, since the gods are listening, I'll have Lena pray to heal Tarnian, who is next worst injured. Another nat 1! This is unprecedented. Let's see what blessing Lena receives. Another 2. Talion is healed for 5 hit points. With those boons, Lena still has 2 first-level miracles available, so I am going to keep going, this time to heal Valen. A 6. Valen is healed for 5 hit points. Finally, ever selfless, Lena will pray to heal Talion again. A 19. Talion is healed for a further 4 hit points. So the gods have rewarded the companions with healing. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The dice really do have a story they want to tell. Chapter 69, Part 3, Day 62, Evening. Party status: Beric, 55 out of 61 hit points. Lena, 19 out of 39 hit points. Valen, 22 out of 22 hit points. Talion, 23 out of 27 hit points. Edith, 12 out of 14 hit points. Spells available: Valen has memorized Charm Animal, Push, Soothe, Revive, Clairvoyance, and Dragon's Breath. Talion has memorized Poetic Prose, Pitch, Imbue, and Lullaby. Edith has memorized Flame, Sleep, and Knock. Lena can pray for 2 second-level miracles, 1 third-level miracle, and 1 fifth-level miracle. Emptiness fell upon the vast chamber. What had moments before been a place of evil and chaos now settled into an enduring, almost aching stillness. Only Edith's quiet, muffled sobs broke the silence. Her grief at the loss of Demelza, raw and unyielding. A trembling sound, swallowed by the cavernous dark. Lena held her close, stroking the mage's light brown hair with slow, steady motions. She understood the wrench that Edith felt. She too had felt compelled to leave her home, forced into self-imposed exile. She knew what it was to find solace in the company of strangers, and for them to become a new family, a new home. And she also knew loss. Kia, then Jenna. Their names drifted through her memory like ghosts. Edith's grief must have sparked the same empathy among the men, for they gathered closer. Even Beric, who was so often stoic, stood with his head bowed. But it was more than that. They had faced the terror of the rift, stared into the abyss, and lived. The weight of it pressed heavily upon them all. They came together in a collective hold, cocooning Edith in the comforting warmth of their bodies, forming a barrier against the now cold, empty dark around them. Then, Lena softly offered a quiet prayer.
Most hallowed Nine, bless us this day, that we have done thy will, as forever we shall do thy will. Soothe our hearts, give comfort in faith, that a soul now lost be kept in thy grace. Give us strength to vanquish thy foes, deliver us from evil and the pain of sorrow. So let it be, now and for eternity.
Her golden aura flared once more, enveloping the companions and bathing them in holy light. Seared skin, cuts and abrasions were soothed in a sweeping coolness, which both healed and invigorated like a cool mountain stream. Then the light faded, and with it the presence of the divine, until once again they were alone in the dark.
There is no more for us here,
Lena said finally.
It is time to leave this place.
They broke to gather their things. and as Edith turned, she noticed the gleam of something white, resting on the ground, beneath where the rift had torn reality. She moved towards it. She knew what it was, sensing its arcane power. There, resting on the flagstones, its white blade stained with blood, was Tagru, Demelza's enchanted dagger. Edith picked it up from the floor, its walrus ivory handle cold in her hand, a chill that seeped straight into her bones.
It is yours now.
Valen's low voice over her shoulder startled her. She turned to face the other mage. He held Demelza's satchel, its leather darkened with age.
As are the contents of this,
he said, offering the bag. Edith would not look him in the eye. She took hold of the satchel, but Valen held onto it, forcing her to meet his gaze. She looked up, her eyes hard and challenging.
Why?
She demanded.
Why did you not tell me?
Her voice was angry, bitter, edged with heartbreak.
When did you make your plan?
Valen's expression softened, shadows of regret crossing his features.
Demelza spoke to me with her thoughts.
He explained.
She made me swear to keep it from you. She knew that you would try to prevent her.
I would have.
Edith retorted defiantly.
It was you. You persuaded her. Her blood is on your hands.
Her words were venom, sharpened by grief. She yanked the satchel free from Valen's grasp, turning her back on him.
Blame me if you wish.
His voice was low and sorrowful.
But you should know that Demelza was determined to close the rift. She would have thrown herself into the abyss with the Eye of Krevik regardless.
Valen knew this truth would sting.
But with my help, there was a chance, albeit slim, that we could save her soul.
Edith turned and shot him a cold glance, her jaw clenched.
You cannot know that!
No, I cannot. And I will have to carry that burden. But what else would you had I do?
Edith's eyes bore into him, scrutinizing. Then, her eyes softened. The tension that she carried in her muscles fell away, along with her objection, like a rope finally loosened.
Nothing.
She muttered, her cheeks flushed, reddening with shame.
Over here!
Beric's voice split the air, cutting through the heavy quiet. The big warrior had ventured further into the chamber. He carried a torch, since Valen had the moonstone, and its yellow-orange flame cast flickering shadows across the pillars and walls. The others hurried to catch up, moving some 90 feet down the length of the pillared hall to where Beric stood. There, inset in the wall, was an archway and stairs leading up. Thank you for listening to Legend of the Bones. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you like what you've heard, then please consider rating and reviewing the show in your podcatcher of choice. Not only do I love seeing the feedback, but it really does help the show to reach new listeners. As always, where would I be without my amazing cast of voice talent? Returning to the show, playing the role of Demelza, is my mum, Ros Williams. Apart from being fabulous, Ros is a member of her local amateur dramatic society and has also done work as an extra. Also returning to the show, playing the role of Edith, is Chloe Elliott. Chloe is an actor, singer, composer and content creator, as well as being a cast member of A Deck of Many Aces, an actual play D&D podcast. My sincere thanks to both my mum, as well as Chloe, whose links I'll put in the show notes. You could also help by liking or reposting new episode announcements, or by recommending the show online or to a friend. You really can't beat the power of word of mouth. Alternatively, if you'd like to show your appreciation by buying me a metaphorical cup of tea, then I have a Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com/Legend of the Bones. Any donations will go towards the show's running costs. Finally, I would love to know what you think of the show, and I do respond to every message I receive. So with that in mind, you can contact me on X at LegendBones, Blue Sky at LegendBones, Mastodon at LegendBones, at ttrpg-hangout.social, Instagram at LegendOfTheBones, email at legendofthebones@gmail.com, or go to legendofthebones.blogspot.com for show notes, house rules, character profiles, art, maps and more. Join me next time to find out what awaits our adventurers as the bones decide their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone.
Are you looking for a great listen? Fancy stepping into a world where the heroes are forged in the fires of fate and where every decision could result in glory or ruin? Then welcome to Realm of Rolls, the home of beautifully produced RPG fantasy adventure podcasts. Join our dynamic and experienced cast of creative dungeon masters and players as they bring colourful heroes with secrets, villains with motives, and allies with agendas to life, all wrapped in thrilling, inspiring and immersive settings, where fate can be a friend or foe, and destiny can take a dark turn or an unexpected twist in the blink of an arcane eye. Experience the rush of intense combat, the highs and lows of emotion, and let's not forget that the only thing more unpredictable than the plot is the roll of the dice. Pick up the links to our podcast streaming and socials, latest news and a showcase of trailers at realmofrolls.co.uk.